Welcome to everyone to our Alumni Weekend. We're thankful to have everyone here, whether you're from near or from far. It's a blessing to see everybody and to come back and reminisce and remember. And that's what Friday night has become, really is a time to remember. And so we're excited to do that together tonight. And just happy to have every one of you here. When you come to Oklahoma Academy and leave, you're still a part of our family. And you will always be a part of the OA family. And we're always happy to have you come home. So thank you for coming. This evening we're blessed to have the Kennedys with us. The Kennedys are from 1984. Is when the Kennedys first came, and they actually left in 96. That just doesn't seem like that was that 20 years ago that you guys left. That doesn't seem possible. Anyway, they were a blessing to our campus. They had 3 children, EK, Melanie, and Jader. Jessica. We gave her as Jader. And she was the first, I think the first person that started first grade here and graduated 12th grade. Wow. Yep.
Good evening. We're the Kennedys. Used to be called the K's. My name is Edward. This is my wife, Linda. And we're from your neighboring state, Missouri. 300 miles from here is our...
Yep. You know, we're here to reminisce about our years that we were here. I'm not sure how we can put 12 or 13 school years into half an hour, but we're going to give it a try. We were attacked by, what are those things? Sandburrs on our way over here. You were too. Yeah, we don't have sandburrs where we live. And
We'll send you some.
It brought back so many memories. And as I was sitting in this chair, I saw a bug run by and I thought, wow, I remember when this room didn't have any interior walls. It was heated by a wood heater, and I don't think it had windows.
Yeah, it had windows.
It had windows? Well, how did those June bugs get in?
Because we had opened up the windows, there wasn't air conditioning.
Okay. We'd open the windows up, and these June bugs, I don't know if you still have them here, but they buzz real slow, and then they hit the ceiling, and then they fall straight down. And every time we'd see a June bug in here, we would move around because, sure enough, they'd fall down your back of your shirt. And we had that several times in here. Just a few memories. We live on a hobby farm in Missouri. We have alpacas and chickens and dog and cats. And one of the things that I do, that I like to do, I actually work for Wright County Children's Home, and it's a home for abused and neglected children. We work 24 to 48 hours straight, so we kind of take care of the kids while we're there. They're kids that have had unfortunate circumstances, and I really, really enjoy my job. But then one of my hobbies is taking that alpaca fiber that we have, and I spin it. I love to spin. I spin on spinning wheels and also hand spindles. Maybe next time I come, I'll bring some hand spindles and I'll show you how to hand spin some alpaca fiber. I do sew classes and I make sap as well, and grow my own herbs. And in Missouri, we're called gatherers because we go out into the woods and we gather herbs and plants that grow that are medicinal that will help us to be healthy. And so those are some things that I do for hobbies.
Some of my hobbies are feeding the alpacas, the dog, the cats, the chickens, mowing the grass. No, those are just honeydews that you guys will learn about this someday. Woodworking. In fact, most of the buildings here on this property I probably had a hand in doing something with them, framing them, painting them, finishing them in one way or another, including this very building we're in. Me and some of the young men built the stage back here 100 years ago.
And Colonial Cottage as well.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Colonial Cottage wasn't there, so Edward and other staff members.
Well, when we first came here, it was 100 years ago. When we first came here, there was 3 houses and a trailer, and they moved us into a trailer back over here in the corner. There wasn't any trees. But they did have this cute little produce stand out here on, was this Luther Road? No, 63rd Street. And some of the staff and children, or students, were out there selling some produce when we came to visit. We came from Montana down here to visit.
We took back watermelon, strawberries, corn, and that was one of the things that the kids did here, is they grew that type of food
Oh,
here.
yeah, huge garden now.
Yeah, there was a
I
large
don't know if
garden.
y'all still do that, you have a big garden? No?
No. We actually lived in 5 houses on campus. We started out in the trailer, and I think we actually lived in the house that Karen and Brian are in for one day. And then Jim said, "You're moving again."
All the way to the end, where the Vignerons live.
Yep. So I think I had just unpacked my last box, and that's when he said, "You're moving." And I said, "Come over here, and I want to wring your neck." So we're very different. I take notes, and he flies by the seat of his pants. So I see him cheating on my notes now.
I see it says our children. We had 3 children. When we came here, our youngest child, Jessica, had just turned 5 years old. And so she had pre-kindergarten in the dining room.
Wendy, did you teach her that first class? No. The first year?
No, you did.
I did?
Yeah, I had a big refrigerator box, and we cleaned it and put it in the cabinet. You gave me things to do.
Okay. All right.
We had 3 children. All 3 of them graduated from Oklahoma Academy. And
I want to say, too, when we were thinking about taking this position and reminiscing, I said, you know what? Every year that we would come here for alumni, the Ellers would come. And I said to myself, wow, I don't think it's going to be the same. But then when I saw you, that was it. I even think one year you brought your chickens. Because you were making that transfer. Yeah. So, lots and lots of things. You know, the campus itself was very different. When we pulled on campus that first year, and like Edward said, there were no trees.
I think there was a cottonwood down in front of the girls' dorm.
Yeah. This building was just barely there. And in the boys' dorm, the last half of the boys' dorm was where the staff lived. Some of the single staff lived there. And I know you guys remember Ed Shinner. And I did ask Karen permission to tell some stories about Ed Shinner. You want to go ahead and tell that?
Ed Shinner was a young staff member here. He slept like a freight train. When he snored, the walls vibrated. And so the boys that lived on either side of him came to me. I was the boys' dean then, and they were complaining about the steam engine down there and such and such. I said, well, I'll talk to him. Well, I did. I spoke to him, but he's a snorer. So they decided to pull a practical joke on Ed, and they filled his shoes with, I think, toothpaste. Shaving cream? Shaving cream or toothpaste. He put them on the next day and wore them all day, and did you? Never knew.
Yeah.
And this building here, you had to visualize it when we first came here. It was a shell. And there was a wire that went across the back of it there. Yes. And that was the grade school. And this here was the gymnasium. But on Wednesday night and Sabbath, it was church. And it was difficult to separate that. Well, it was difficult because you played here, you taught here. Oh, it was also the music room. So it was a mirage of different things.
I remember when we got the trees, the first time we got the trees, Ray Cornforth was here. He was one of the staff members. And he had the boys out there digging these really big holes. And we were so excited because we just knew we were going to have trees. They were pecan trees.
And those pecan trees.
Those pecan trees, right?
Yeah, these out here. But so we dug these big old holes.
8 foot in diameter, 6 feet deep.
And the trees came.
They were expecting these roots, you know, massive root balls. He had this tube, and he says, "Well, here's the trees."
And we're going,
"What?"
No. But now they're so beautiful and wonderful. Your campus is beautiful. A little bit dry, but beautiful. We come from Greens country over in
We
Missouri.
get more moisture than
Not far from you guys. We live in an Amish area. We're surrounded by Amish folks. And if those of you, is there anyone here that doesn't know who Amish are?
How is that?
Okay, the Amish people in this country don't drive cars, they don't have electricity, they wear only black or blue dresses with hats. They're very very conservative in their living patterns, and they drive horse and buggy. They drive horses and buggies, so it's interesting.
Okay, one more memory on this building here. When we came here, Brian wasn't here, Karen was here, and then she went away to Weimar, I believe it was, and brought Brian back. That was interesting, and so they decided that they were going to get married. Well, we had all these preparations going on, and I was either walking inside the building, or anyhow, I happened to look out this window, this particular window, and I seen a ladder. And I thought, well, that's different. And then I seen a boy with something on his shoulder going up the ladder. Aha, something's going on here.
Did you guys know this?
Yes, we heard that.
Okay.
So I went out and I went up the ladder, and they had a 40-pound bag of rice. Okay? Now, what they wanted to do was drop this bag of rice on Mr. and Mrs. Holland.
40 pounds, all once.
There was a problem. Have you ever seen a rice sack? They're fiber. They're not paper. And so I said to these, they were two brothers. I think Brian knows who they are. Anyhow, I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" "Oh man, Mr. K, this is going to be so cool. They're going to come out. We're going to drop this right on Mr. Holland's head." It's break open. He said, "Oh yeah, it will." I said, "Kick it." You know, so they kicked it a couple of times. Says, "Oh yeah." Kind of spoiled her.
Mr. Holland lived another day too.
We used to look forward to, not really, working in the garden every week. And we had a big strawberry patch there. The strawberries were wonderful. And so I think we would go out every single week on Thursdays and we would pick. All the kids would come, we'd pick. And we had several days as well that we would set school aside and we would can, or freeze. I think we froze peaches and apples and strawberries and corn. Yeah, because there was an orchard. Now, do you guys still have your orchard?
Yeah.
Okay. So we would do that as well. And it actually taught us, it was a wonderful time where we could learn how to freeze and can, and I know that a lot of kids still do that today. They still freeze and can. We used to have a industry over across in MU. MU wasn't here, by the way, when we moved here. That was a new building that was built. And the daycare, we had a daycare over there. And it was wonderful. We had a wonderful experience in the daycare. I still have kids that graduated years ago that still work, maybe have gone to school and got their degrees, and still work with kids. So, Jay Carlson?
Oh, yeah. When I was boys dean, we had a special person who used to come here. His name was Jay Carlson. He was from Oregon. He was in a wheelchair. And his parents, when they would go on vacation, they'd bring Jay here. And of course, he would stay in the dorm. And our youngest daughter, Jessica, would push him all over the place on these sidewalks, and every once in a while tip him over. At 6 o'clock in the morning, he'd be banging on our door wanting to play hangman with Jessica. But the neat thing happened with Jay. I assigned some of the boys to take care of him. He wasn't able to bathe himself because of his disability. And so with these young men taking care of Jay Carlson, guess what happened? Their life changed. Their life changed. They had always been concentrating on themselves because, I mean, they could run, skip, do everything. Jay Carlson couldn't do that. And unfortunately, Jay was burnt. His, just another window into the story. His folks had gone to the store to get something real quick, and Jay was home with his sister. And he was making toast in the oven, I believe it was, and anyhow he reached in to turn the toast over, and the sleeve of his house coat hit the red hot oil and burst into flame. We'll make a long story short, when the parents got home, Jay was sitting out on the front stoop, and his garment had been burnt, so he had bad scars on him. So when these boys were taking care of him, they seen these scars, but yet they seen how tender and how pure this young man was. And it changed their heart. Those two young men gave their heart to the Lord. It was beautiful.
We had other situations here. I don't know if Brian wants me to tell about the leg under the bed or not, but would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. This was so funny. Happened in the boys' dorm. We used to have, and I'm not sure how the boys would get this stuff, but they would find things. There's a dump around here, and they would go to the dump and they would bring stuff back. Well, they brought a prothesis back, which was a leg.
Fake leg.
A fake leg. And so it was time to go to bed, and they came, I'm hoping I'm getting this story straight.
No. That wasn't time to bed.
It wasn't time for bed? Okay.
I can tell the story. You want me to tell the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell the story, it's so funny.
I was on as dean, and the boy was known as a real prankster. Real prankster. He was pulling pranks all the time. Anyhow, should have known better. But anyhow, he knocks at my door. He goes, "Mr. Holland, there's a guy underneath my bed and he won't get out." I go, "Okay, I'll take care of it." So I go down there. "All right, get out from underneath there." Nobody moved. No, and he's just back there just busting a gut, you know.
Didn't you
Yeah, I got it. Give me a fruit. "Sure, Mr. Hall, I'll get you a fruit." Yeah, it's a big leg.
And he said, "If you don't come out, he just keeps threatening this leg." Finally, didn't you grab the leg and pull it out?
No, I just lifted it up because I
Yeah, crazy. The boys, they used to cook hamburgers on their irons. I mean, we could smell the grillers.
10:30 at
You
night.
could smell them.
You could smell brothers cooking in the boys' dorm.
And we'd say, "Wow."
Where's this coming from?
You know, I just have to say the girls never did stuff like that. They were all so
Well, now wait a minute. I was teaching a young lady how to drive one of the lawnmowers. They had brand new lawnmowers. Those zero clearance lawnmowers, you know, with the two cans. And so I put her through a little driving school, and she did really good. Mrs. Heiner had just planted some new fruit trees down here at her house. And so I told this young lady, I said, "Listen, if something happens to the lawnmower, don't try to fix it. Come get me or Mr. Campbell, and we'll take care of it." So she took off, wasn't gone 10 minutes, and she came back crying. "The lawnmower's said, well, where's it at? It's down at Mrs. Heiner's. So I said, all right, well, let's go down and look at it. No, I don't want to look at it. I will look at it. We go down there, the lawnmower's on top of the tree. She went up on the tree. I don't know if Mrs. Heiner remembers that or not. Mrs. Heiner came out and she said, well, we'll just get another tree. She settled down, the young lady settled down. So girls do make mistakes.
One thing in the girls, I was the girls' dean at that time, and we had a girl swallow a light bulb. Not one of these. It was a little light bulb. She held it in the corner of her mouth and forgot it was there and swallowed it. And so I thought, oh man, what are we going to do now? So Dr. Miller was here from UG Pines, and he said, give her oranges. Make her eat oranges. Because oranges are very fibery. I've never forgot this in case I run across anybody else that swallows a light bulb. Eat the oranges, and the oranges kind of will encircle that light bulb, and it'll go the way of oranges. That's what happened. That is exactly what happened. The very next day, Amy Beneglio dropped a curling iron on her
You mentioned the name.
oh, sorry. Amy dropped a curling iron on her eyeball and burned it all the way across her eye. The girls had other issues other than shaving cream and
Well,
stuff.
the girl that swallowed the light bulb was kissing a hermit crab and it grabbed her lip. It was hanging on her lip.
I would carry we couldn't have pets in the dorm, so I carried a hermit crab around in my pocket when I was here as staff. And just saying, girls, the boys were all afraid of it. The girls were not. They would hold it, and she happened to be kissing it, and I'm not sure why. Latched onto her lip, and we had a terrible time getting that thing off. It was my pet. I wasn't going to kill it or pull its arm off. She just had to suffer with that thing until we let it, we got it off of her lip.
One day Mrs. K took that crab into the dining room.
Oh. You know what, I regret this, but it was so funny. You know George Vignot? Yeah. We all know George. I didn't know George was afraid of hermit crabs. And we had burgers. He had a burger on his plate. And I thought, okay. So I picked up that bun, and I put that hermit crab on his sandwich and put the bun down. And so, this is what made, it was, you had to have some fun. So anyway, he goes and he gets his stuff, and he comes back and he sits down, and his bun starts walking. And he goes, Denelda, you were there, and of course Thelma was there. Were you guys there? Yeah.
I don't think we were there. I heard about that. I don't think we were there.
The bun starts walking away, and he's going, what? And he picks that bun up, and he sees that hermit crab. Oh my. He flew through the air, 8 foot back, and he was not the same. And I really quickly grabbed my hermit crab and got him back in my pocket. I don't know what that was.
There's one more story about the dorm. Now, this is not to give you guys any ideas.
We were afraid what we should tell you guys because we didn't want you to think.
Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. So don't think you're going to try something that nobody else has. It's happened. So I'm boys' dean. It's 11:30 at night. I couldn't sleep, and I was up pacing the hallway. And I decided to go down that wing this way. And I got back to the exit light, and I just scooted down against the door and sit down, and I'm sitting there. And pretty soon, the door on the right opens up. So I'm sitting there. It's dark, except for that exit light above my head. And within a few seconds, the door across the hall opens. And I hear someone say, "Do you think he's gone to bed yet?" And I'm sitting there and I say, "Yeah, I think so." Real quick, you could have heard an ant cry. All of a sudden, the door on the right, I see this mirror come out. And I go like this. The doors are shut. So I'm trying Another time I had sometimes kids can't. Sometimes you people, you can't sleep at night. You lay there and toss and turn. Sometimes I have that problem too. Anyhow, one night in the dorm, well, more than one night. Anyhow, this young man decided to get up and go visiting. A few practical jokes. So I had gone around and I did bed check, and when I got to his room, he had pillows underneath his blankets. So, okay, I remember this. So I moved his pillows and I got in his bed and I rolled all the way against the wall. I don't know what time it was. I had actually fallen asleep. He came back and he sat down on his bed and took his shoes off and he laid down and I threw my arm over and I said, "Gotcha." Out of his skin. He screamed like a girl. She was here.
When our son was here, he had a difficult time waking up in the morning. And back in those days, the boys were taught how to wire buildings and paint and do all kinds of things. So they knew how to wire things. And somewhere he got his hand on the buzzer that rings in between classes.
Is it still outside?
Yeah.
Loud buzzer?
It was so loud. It was a big old horn. Big old horn. It was so obnoxiously loud that I think it was replaced. But somehow he found it and hooked it up in his bedroom, in his room, in the dorm, right next to his roommate.
Power came on at 6 a.m. No, 5:30.
The power came on, the horn went off,
And the dorm went off.
and Perry jumped up out of bed and fell out of bed and strangled EK. Trying to, "What are you doing?" You know, there's so many stories. We've got to stop. There's so many stories. We used to do hikes, night hikes. We'd take the girls on night hikes because I was a girl team. We always went on the camp outs with the girls. And Edward would go ahead and rig up a whole bunch of stuff.
You know they won't let us do that anymore. The campground won't let us do that.
Night
They won't let
hikes?
us do night hikes anymore.
Oh, really?
Really?
No,
Wow.
nobody hikes at night.
The girls looked forward all year long to Mr. K's pranks for the night hike.
Oh,
I remember.
I remember walking. It even scared me to see. Now walk carefully because there's a 24-foot drop on the right. And then he'd take us by the next day and it was only like this. And you couldn't see it because it was dark. But yeah, we had wonderful times with the night hikes. One time, we slept down behind the dorm in the yard, not realizing Edward dressed up like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and came by on the back road and scared us all to death. I think we even camped out in the music building once.
No, one camp out that I don't think I'll ever forget, we went to Robbers Cave,
Oh, yeah.
and it was a rainy weekend. Horrible rain. And we had a 5-gallon bucket of honey in the back of the bus, and the bus was parked on the hill. So the back was up and the front was down.
5 pound,
Oh, 5 pounds.
can of honey.
Somebody knocked it over.
But nobody knew it because it was raining.
And it ran from the back of the bus. And so everybody that got on swapped through this honey.
And then the girls would pull their legs up and sleep on the seats. And, you know, they'd have their legs over their feet, over the backs of the seats and drip, 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 drip. And when we finally realized it was honey and not water, we said, okay, we're going home. And we had to go home. I mean, we couldn't unstick ourselves from the sun. It was so horrible.
Just to relieve all these people's minds, it was probably the yellow bus, right?
Yes,
Not
yes,
the
no, it was a yellow school bus. Yeah.
Two girls stayed in a tent, I remember this. And it was the only dry spot in this field where we had camped. The rest of it was all underwater. And it was funny because when they got up in the morning, one of the girls, I remember seeing her head out of the tent, she was around like this, wondering how she's going to get to the bus. Well, you got to walk through the water to get to the bus. It was funny.
I cooked in the kitchen for quite a while, and we had some kids that would gripe about the food, and I'd think, what? Are you griping about my food? I don't think so. So we went and got some gummy worms, and we stuck it in their food, so that when they'd go to eat it, they'd come across a worm. And we'd say, you know what? No griping about the food in the kitchen. And that stopped the griping.
That stopped it.
Stopped the griping.
Only they wanted more gummy worms. Used to take them down to Tinker Air Force Base. I don't know if you guys have been down there or not. Big Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. And right across from the end of the runway was a field. And so the boys had their cameras with them, and I said, well, I'll take you down to Tinker and we'll get some nice shots of these super jets coming in for a landing. And so, this was hilarious. The guys said, can we get on the roof? Sure, go ahead. I had 7 or 8 guys. So they're all on the roof of this bus. And a plane comes in, the first time it comes in, the guys are going, they're trying to tell the pilot to get lower, you know.
They want better pictures.
Better pictures, exactly. So the plane, you know, they did what they call a touch and go. They land on the runway and take off again. The third time this pilot came around, he's coming in and all of a sudden he dipped down like this. And those boys dove off the top of the bus. They got close pictures when they did. One more thing about the pictures. So, took a group of boys to town. And this was really something. A guy was there with a wrecker, and he was repossessing a vehicle. And he just got it hooked up on the wrecker. And here come a man running down the parking area screaming, that's my truck, hey, give me my truck. And the wrecker driver said, no, we're repossessing this. Well, one of the boys in the bus had his camera. So he got it out and he starts taking pictures. Well, this guy who was getting his vehicle repossessed got in the back of his pickup truck that was hooked on this wrecker. The driver has got his head out the window saying, get out of that truck, we're hauling this in. And he had a hatchet in there. And so he started swinging it and he hit the driver on the shoulder and I think on the side of the head. Anyhow, he jumped out. I'm not going to get gory. He jumped out, but one of my boys is taking all of these pictures. And so when it's all done, the police show up, and I'm standing out there with the boys because I witnessed this. And one of the boys says to the policeman, he says, hey, I got some pictures. And big smile on his face, and they're good. And this wasn't instant camera, this was the old roll type, the film type. So the cop says, well, you mind if we take that and get them developed? He said, no, that's fine. So they got them developed. The next thing you know, we get a subpoena in the mail having to go to court. They caught this guy, and he said he didn't do anything. So we're in court. That we never did get to go up to the judge, but a lawyer had all of these pictures. Went up to the front of the judge quietly and showed him these pictures, and so they dismissed us. We didn't have to testify against him. But the point of it was, one of the boys had his camera, and he actually recorded the whole episode. He had about 24 pictures, I think.
We need to stop reminiscing. There's so many more stories. We go on, do you guys still go on 4-mile hikes around the, no? We used to go on 4-mile hikes, and for the first 2 miles, you'd walk with one person, you'd switch and walk with another person, but we used to have to go hunting for the boys. Because a lot of times they jump out the windows. They jump out the windows because they don't want to walk with a girl. So we, but they got over that because they're married now.
Yep.
Yeah. We had some wonderful things. We had a street ministry where we had a band. You still have the band?
No.
No. We had a street ministry where we'd go down into Oklahoma City and we would take blood pressures and pass out literature. We met a whole lot of folks, doing that. We had some wonderful, wonderful things happen in those areas. A lot of our students that have graduated, as we were reminiscing about kids, nurses, doctors, pastors, social workers, counselors, truck drivers, university administrators, authors, lecturers, missionaries, IT people, hospital administrators, business owners, mothers, housewives, people advocates that work with human trafficking, school teachers, counselors, managers, farmers, pilots, secretaries, police officers, airline stewardesses. We could go on and on and on. These are the kids that have graduated from Oklahoma Academy. But you know what? As you look at life, this is not the important thing. As you look at life, there's something else that's more important. Who you are now, in 10 or 15 years, people are going to reminisce back about you. They're going to say, I remember him, and he was like this. Or I remember her, she did this. It's important that you think about your future and what's going to be happening as people reminisce about you in 5 or 10 years.
I always encourage the young men to get their own relationship with Christ. And because you've been with mom and dad all these years, now you come to academy. Now I'm talking primarily freshmen. They would come, and they have mom and dad's religion, which has been good. That's wonderful. But now it's time for you to step up and build that relationship. And I used to encourage the boys to do that. And praise the Lord, it works. I have a story here about a fellow. They called him China Joe. His real name was Li Hing. And during the gold rush days in Alaska, people came from all over the world seeking what? They found it. And so did Mr. Li, or China Joe. He was a humble baker, a storekeeper, and a humanitarian. He saved a number of miners from despair and starvation, asking nothing in return. Now this guy, he had a supply store. He had salt, he had sugar, he had flour, he had yeast, he had cooking oil, he had all the essentials. Well, winter came, and the river froze up, and so no barges could get up the river. Now this was way back in the gold rush days, back in the 1800s. And so these miners were desperate for food. So a couple of them decided, well, we're just going to go down there, we're going to take it. And some of the other miners got wind of this, and they stopped that. They would not permit this to happen. And so instead, they went and talked to Mr. China Joe, and he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, I don't want your gold. He says, I'll give you a cup of flour or 5 pounds of flour, whatever you need, and when spring comes, you give me back the 5 pounds of flour or sugar, whatever it is that I give you. And he did that, and he saved their lives. He not only did it to those men, but he did it for the men that were trying to kill him. And he lived a very prosperous life. He died in 1917 at the age of 83. But it was said that everybody in Alaska knew him, that he was a friend to all of them. In fact, when people would perish, would die, they would ask China Joe to help carry the casket because he was so well liked. His reputation spread everywhere that he helped save people's lives. He didn't need to, but he wanted to because he was a humanitarian. He wanted to do what was right. This is important for you, to do what is right. When you leave academy, even while you're here, take God with you. Don't treat him like a screwdriver and throw him in the drawer. Put him in your pocket. Better still, put him in your heart. You may have to speak with him throughout the day. Some of you have already experienced that. Walk daily with God. I encourage you to keep on walking with God.
Ellen White has gone from her children a lot, but she wrote to them all the time. And there's a little pamphlet that she wrote, and her letters to her children are in this pamphlet. And I want to read just some excerpts from 2 of her letters that are so touching. Every time she would write them something, she would talk about a different subject that she thought would be helpful to them. This is what she said. My dear children, Henry, Edson, and Willie, you all have an influence for good or for evil on the minds and characters of others. In the morning, go to God. Ask for strength and wisdom for your day, that you can impart a good influence on others. Make known your wants to your Heavenly Father. If you do, angels mark your prayers. When you are in danger of unconsciously doing wrong and exerting an influence which will lend others to do wrong, your guardian angel will be by your side, prompting you to a better course, choosing your words for you, and influencing your actions. If you feel in no danger, if you offer no prayer to God for help and strength to resist temptations, you will be sure to go astray. That was written to her boys in 1863. Then she wrote a letter to Henry. Dear Henry, acquaint yourself with your own faults. You know where you err, and you are getting to be of that age that you should not depend wholly on us to tell you that you shall not do this or that, but study before you move. Ask yourself, is it right? Will it lead to evil? Will it lead to unfaithfulness? Will it lead to deception or falsehood? Shall I feel just as happy after I do this as before? You can, by thus considering, often decide yourself what is right. Be faithful, be kind, be obedient. Love your dear Savior. And that is our prayer to all of you as Edward and I are standing here. Our prayer is that you're faithful, you're kind, you're obedient, and you love the Lord. We hope that, and we know that we've seen it over and over and over again when you go out into the world. There's such temptations. So plant Him in your heart so that when those temptations come, the angels will be able to whisper in your ears, turn this way or that. Thank you.